Welcome back, everyone, to our wonderful Raised by Wolves talks as we're getting into episode 6 called Lost Paradise. And in the beginning of the episode, we're getting straight into showing Mother. And, I just wanted to point out that Mother is actually, it really, really does appear like she's feeling love, Adam, coming from her creator, Campion Sturgis, replaying those videos back, stepping into the frame so that the kiss can align with her. And it's going to play off of that in this episode.
Yeah, totally agree. The line between android and human is definitely getting blurred, and the entire sequence between her and her creator shows that she is becoming more human throughout that process, and it's just kind of eclipsed by that end moment.
Yeah, and it's very touching at times. The show does a great job keeping that emotional tie-in. Meanwhile, Marcus and Sue are getting ready to start mounting their ideas for this attack that's going to go down on the android encampment to try and get their kids back. Mainly Paul, but they want to get the rest of the kids as well. Another thing to note, Tempest has been experiencing a lot of nightmares throughout these nights. Now, that doesn't really seem surprising, Adam, since we've talked about what she's gone through, being taken advantage of in hypersleep. It's all she ever thinks about. She even calls out Mother for, how would you even understand? You don't even dream. But
Right.
but then we're all kind of like, yeah, and even Tempest is like, or do you? Because then even she kind of stops for a moment and says, or do you dream? Maybe there's something I don't know about you.
Right. Well, and I think there's a couple things that are really interesting about that sequence, because Tempest, the dreams could just be because, like you said, she was actually raped, or they could be one of the other many things in this show that actually means something that you don't know does in the moment.
Sure.
And we don't know yet.
Yeah, and they could be showing her some very, very nasty things. Everything from what we've seen so far. It's been very kind of mild, but it's getting worse, especially as we get into this episode. While the children are out doing their activities, playing in the fields and so forth, Hunter manages to find a can of food that Sue was eating, hidden behind some rocks. So Hunter knows for a fact there are definitely survivors from the Mithraic group, and it's possible they could be mounting this an attack or a rescue mission for that matter. And I'm sure he wants to try and aid them however he can.
Yeah, and it's kind of an oh shit moment for the whole rest of the colony too, because suddenly, like, several of the other people are really kind of getting used to living there, but you can tell Hunter's still like, I gotta get back to my people.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting what's also happening with Mother and Father too, because like Mother's going to the ship and kind of coming back, and Father's kind of starting to have moments of, what are you really doing out there? And he starts to question her motives a little bit, and she kind of calms him down. But as the episode goes on, he has more and more reason to question, I think.
He totally does. And so leading up to those events, which kind of brings everything to a head, we get our Mithraic group, and as they're getting ready to surmount this attack, and they have to go about it very carefully because they know Mother, she's a big-time threat, and they can take them out literally with the sound of her voice. Lucius actually there's a moment that he reveals to Marcus about his father and how everything went down. And Marcus very cunningly kind of says, well, hey, tell me what was in the report and I'll let you know if there's anything that was left out. So he gets to get the full story. We find out that Lucius's father was basically killed by Marcus because during one of the battles, they had captured a young female atheist, and instead of executing her immediately like he should have, he kept her alive, and she ultimately set off a bomb which killed many, many men. And Marcus executed his father for doing as such. And so this, we start to see that tie-in, and even, remember Adam, Marcus even says a comment to Lucius saying, your father wasn't weak. And
yeah.
And although not at this point in time, it's not really an issue because, they feel that they should fend for themselves and be strong at all times. But you see this small smile on Lucius's face, almost kind of like it was something soothing to him in a way.
The relationship between those two is kind of blossoming.
Yes.
The other thing I kind of saw there too was also surprise. And I think that's the thing. I think that's a little bit of foreshadowing, is I think he's relieved, but also a little surprised by the comment. And I think there's a little bit of conflict between the man who wants to honor his father and the man who's a devout follower of Soul,
yes.
If that makes any sense.
It makes total sense. And just moments after this in the show, basically they find the VR interface that Mother has been interacting with, and they can see the log. They see that she's in there for a couple hours at a time. It's the perfect setup for them to attack Mother and try to take her out. So that's where their plan is basically based off. And so back at the encampment, also things going on. We start to see this kind of small rivalry between Paul and Campion. Earlier in the show, they're kind of bickering about what has a soul. To tree, Campion thinks trees have souls, and my mother and father, the androids, they have souls, and you know, basically Paul's not agreeing with any of this, saying it's very babyish him to think so. But that Campion's like, we can still disagree and still be friends. Boy, shouldn't people take a note out of that for 2020? Still be able to have a conversation. But it gets a little worse as the episode goes on, because Paul has been creating this contraption device that basically they can put over the head of one of the creatures, and it'll just kind of snap right in and kill them, so that they don't have to physically go and hunt the creatures themselves. And he calls out Campion, saying that, and Campion helped by finding the food for the bait, and Campion just gets livid because of this. He can't believe that Paul would bring him into this, and Campion loves all life, and then he goes and he decks him.
Whole sequence, like you said, the jealousy builds from the point where he's being kind of outcompeted at the puzzles to the point where all of a sudden, like, Paul's bringing violence against creatures that Campion doesn't want, and I think he's just had enough. And the funny thing is, like, father and mother eventually end up chastising him for it, and like when this eventually happens, like you could tell on some level Campion knows he wasn't supposed to do this, because he starts fibbing the story. He's like, I only hit him once, and then father's
Campion.
he's like, and then he eventually finally fibs up, but like, it was just this kind of emotional outburst. I think he was so upset. And you see kids do this all the time, where they're just really upset and they do something. When you're talking to them about it later, they're like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. And I feel like Campion's going through
He is, and he's growing up. He's just a kid. I mean, we don't want to be too hard on him, but it's kind of hard because he's growing up in this harsh world. We can't help it. Furthermore, as if tensions aren't high enough there, Mother sees this drawing on the wall, and she starts freaking out like crazy, because it's a drawing of two figures kissing, and it's basically resembling her and Campion Sturgis, her creator, in the sim. And she starts trying to erase it, and she's just trying to go through her mind who could be doing this, and she ends up calling out Father.
In the process of doing so, Father is like, well, I don't know what's going on, but now that you're questioning me about it, I'm a little suspicious of you. So her suspicion ends up raising Father's suspicion, and then he really wants to know what's going on when she's leaving the camp to do these patrols, like she said.
I couldn't help it, and I know we mentioned this earlier. I love Father, and I love the actor. He's doing a great job. I just love that scene when he goes, because she says something about the pods, and he says, "What pods, Mother?" He goes, "In fact, now I'm extremely curious." And I mean, I'm just, he's just so awesome. I love his character.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, their debate gets a little heated, and after I think she kind of storms off in a bit of a fit of rage at one point, but basically going back to the VR system to kind of plug back in again, trying to find answers also for herself. And this is the go moment, because this is where Marcus and them are getting ready to spring their trap, and she's laying there, and I guess as she starts coming out of it, and that propulsion light is basically, I guess it's like pushing the energy back onto her, and it's kind of freaking her whole system out. But I guess all of that energy and everything that was going on, it ends up, I guess, fraying or damaging the wires to the charges that were set on the side. And you could just see Marcus freaking out on the side, and he's like, blow the damn thing. Which, mind you, I'm dying laughing a little bit inside, because the cleric, the second in command cleric, the prisoner, he's like, will I be pardoned if I complete this task? And he goes, you betcha. I mean,
you bet. Yeah.
He knows damn well he's gonna be blown sky high from Three Kingdoms. There's no way. But except it doesn't explode, and in fact it backfires, and it freaking blows off the arm of one of the Mithraic soldiers, and then she starts doing her Jedi mind levitation rock tricks. Take it from there, Adam. It was just madness.
What's really interesting about this is not only has she broken out and she's starting to actually attack the Mithraics, but Marcus and Sue have this agreement that Sue's only going to attack the encampment if Marcus gives her the go. Well, Mother gets free, starts attacking the Mithraics that are around her. Sue gets impatient, decides she's going to attack the encampment anyway. So the other Mithraics attack the encampment while Mother's going ballistic on the Mithraics that are already around her. And that leads to some interesting
developments, totally, and not so many great developments, at least for Father. And because he was taking on basically Lucius, Sue, and at least I think it was 5 other Mithraic soldiers, all armed with machine guns and ready to do the damage. But Father, amazingly, using his tactics and skills, he manages to kill almost 4 of them, which I'm kind of rooting for Father. I'm just putting that out there. I am not, which is
Me
funny
too.
because I feel myself more of a religious person. I mean, not like maybe like they are, but I totally do not agree with their style, and I'd hate to say
Yeah.
that I actually would be an atheist, but I think in this
Zealous.
world, I think I might actually be. Um,
Well, if you only got 2 choices, you got to make a hard
Right,
one, right?
and for better or for worse, which it seems I'd be a warrior on the front lines, right? But yeah, everything is super crazy, and mind you, the rest of the kids are kind of held up in that little lander unit, kind of because they can actually see a lot of the battlefield area and what's going down. And Father, he almost has the edge on these guys until Hunter pretty much betrays Father and reveals his position, and Lucius takes him out, more or less.
Yeah, like Father's got this perk on one of the silos. He's taking people out. He's doing pretty good. And then yeah, Hunter gets over the intercom and says it. And then yeah, after he takes them out, they start rounding up all the kids and kind of getting them out of there. And then that's when Mother starts to come
She
back,
did.
isn't
She
it?
gets back there trying to pick up the pieces of what's going on. She even finds Father dying. That was a big emotional moment for a lot of us. And because we don't know, is this going to be the complete end for Father? Gosh, we hope not. And as she's getting ready to kind of basically, I think the rest of the Mithraics, they retreat for the moment, but not for very long, because as basically Sue finds Paul out, because remember Paul was out. I think he had gotten away from the barracks and whatnot, and so Marcus sees this as an opportunity to basically use Paul to his advantage to get close to Mother to steal her eyes so that he can finish the job. And without drawing it out, it's pretty much exactly what goes down. But I think it's important to call out, Adam, you see some major dissension now between Sue and Marcus, because she sees exactly what he's doing. He is using him just like all the jerks, on Earth did, using all those young men and those boys to do their bid, and they're willing for war, and all of them pretty much got killed. And
Yeah, he's been kind of
yeah,
converted, it
yeah,
looks like.
and so and more and more we see Marcus leaning towards this faith side too. I mean, not as much in this episode. I mean, it's just little pieces, but it's building more and more and more as we move on.
Yeah.
And Sue, she's starting to see now. Am I going to have to end up taking Paul and just escaping? But we'll get to that before long. Not in this episode. But so Paul does end up going back in, and he pulls a quick one on Mother when she's trying to, I think, take care of Father's body or whatever. Takes the eyes off of her, and she goes running out after Paul. And man, Marcus just lays an axe whooping right into her chest, I think, and back, for that matter. Tears her up a good one.
Yeah, no, and couple points I want to make. One related to that, one additional one. So, the while he's just tearing her up with this axe, you think he's going to kill her. All of a sudden, he gets this voice in his head saying, "Let her live," and so he kind of hesitates and stops and decides to let her live.
What is going on?
And the other crazy thing, I don't know how much we touched on this earlier, but while Mother is in the VR simulation, she actually has this crazy sex scene.
Yeah, it's a crazy VR simulation sex, and because he's pushing her, he's like, "What do you want?" He's trying to get it out of her, and she finally says, "I want you." And they're doing this floaty doty, kind of like they're, I don't know, magicians or this or that, who knows what. But then the dream goes from something very interesting, like in the sexualness or whatever, and then it goes to like this very dark, when he bites into her, and almost like a vampire, and suddenly the ceiling in the VR starts raining all of this white liquidy blood that is the android blood, I believe, and it's just coating them, and she pretty much wakes from it. I call that as close to a nightmare as you could probably have, probably for an android.
So what's kind of interesting at the end of the episode is Marcus has spared Mother after a few good axe cuts to the torso. And she's had this weird experience in the VR, and you're left wondering what's going to happen to Mother, what's going to happen to Father, what's going to happen to the colonies.
Everything is totally on its head right now, and just trying to understand what's going on. And the only last thing I noticed in my notes, Campion also manages to see a vision of Tally in this episode too. So it could just confirm that it's not one person that's just going crazy. Marcus is hearing voices. He's a Mithraic. Father is hearing voices and seeing Tally. He's an android. Campion is human. He's seeing Tally. All kinds of craziness going in here. So much for so many unanswered things, but it keeps our interest and our suspension ready to watch the next episodes. It's a big treat to see something like Raised by Wolves. So we want to thank everybody for coming and enjoying our short review here as we were talking episode 6, Lost Paradise. We will be moving, of course, right into episode 7 where we're nothing stopping this train, Adam. We're rocking.
Nope.
So
we'll finish it off.
See you next time. Make sure to like and subscribe as always if you're enjoying the show, and we'll catch you guys at the next review.